One. I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. We're making progress on the target marketing blog site, and so I'll keep you posted on that. Soon it should be live. Let's go over there. I wanted to make a point, and maybe I don't need to make a point, but I wanted to make a point. Last night on Twitter, I saw this, which was a little shocking. Here's Ivanka Trump. Now, clearly, here she has red, turtleneck, dark background. She's copying my look. And, I'm a little concerned about that. Ivanka, get your own look. I bet she spent more on the hairstylist than I did. That's just saying. But I wanted you to know that this is a very professional look. So don't trivialize my show. Or you can if you want. Okay. Now, I wanted to go over to some, while I have this window up, I might as well keep going. There were some just awful Super Bowl commercials.
Wow. Ooh.
This is one. Okay. I don't want to go to a tax company that does that. It's just as simple as that. It's like you just don't want to go to a financial advisor that just all he does is joke around. I never liked the what was the one called, No Limits or whatever. I thought if my financial advisor thinks that my portfolio has no limits, they don't know. They have no concept of investing at all, or no boundaries. Here's another one that I didn't like, mostly because it was scary. And now that was good.
Dew Zero Sugar.
Product placement.
Same refreshing taste as the.
That was just too scary. I didn't like that one. Okay, so so while I'm here, I wanted to talk a little bit today about package design and design in general. So I got this all queued up. Okay, so this was a food truck ice cream company that I'll scroll down just a touch. I got to keep it like this so you can really see it. Okay, so Van Leeuwen's Treats. And this was from Target Marketing Magazine. Let's look up here. Up here. Oh, you can't see it. It's in the banner. But anyway, it's from Target Marketing Magazine. And as you know, I'm working on being a contributor, hopefully on a weekly basis. That's what Target Tuesdays is about. But anyway, let's play this just for a second, and you'll get the gist of it.
To packaged pints was able to increase its sales by 50% after undergoing a packaging redesign. While the boost in sales is certainly worth highlighting, what made this redesign particularly interesting was the strategy behind it. In the article, Van Leeuwen co-founder Laura O'Neill states that she wanted the packaging for Van Leeuwen's ice cream pints to be, quote, very Instagrammable. To accomplish this, Van Leeuwen reduced its packaging to a simple motif, assigning specific pastel colors to each flavor and placing its logo front and center. The stripped-down design had the desired effect, and almost immediately, consumers started posting pictures of the pints and tagging Van Leeuwen. Diving into some statistics, it's easy to see why keeping social media in mind when designing packaging can correlate to sales. According to a recent blog post from HubSpot, social media has a major influence over consumers, 71% of whom will be more likely to purchase a product if they're referred to it via social media. Now that we've been able to get our hands on a few pints of Van Leeuwen ice cream here in Philadelphia, it's easy to see why Instagram users have been so eager to share these packages on the social platform. The pastel colors provide a warmth and are expertly tailored to match the ice cream flavor inside. Plus, by removing all graphics from the package, it allows the bold type of the brand name to stand out on its own against the single color backdrop. This clean design not only looks great in social media feeds, it differentiates the product from its competition that often overuses graphics on its packaging.
It almost
a simple,
looks like
clean design
generic.
is something that consumers are increasingly embracing, and in this case has helped Van Leeuwen promote its artisan and boutique brand attributes as it continues to expand beyond Brooklyn.
We're real.
Packaging today is not just about...
Okay, that's enough of that. Okay, so now let's go over here to... did I close that window? I think I did. Okay, let's get over here. just in the news. We'll segue just to the news for just a second here. But I wanted to say Disney is almost hitting 30 million subscribers, and when we were talking to Blockbuster back in the probably late 90s, they were really proud of the fact that they had about 25 million households. I think they might have had 27 million. So Disney in a couple of months, when did they start? Um, 6 months ago. Let's see if it says in here. They've just gone blowing through everybody. That's just amazing. I don't see. So these numbers reflect counts as of December, but when did they start? Doesn't say. But it wasn't too long ago because I did a story on it. So I just want to give you that one. So I'm going to get to Ritson in a second, but there's an energy drink company that I was familiar with, and here it is, Excess Energy. You may not have heard of it. It sells through the Amway Corporation, and but I know one of the founders, and they had at the beginning they had these two cans, and they got a designer, and they made these cans look very, very subtle, very, very pastel-y, I guess you'd say pastel, like the ice cream jars. And so David was at a conference, and I had just gotten a case of these, which is my favorite, the Wild Berry Blast, and they'd taken the yellow almost completely out and the red completely out, and just made it basically sort of like purple on blue. This one too, you could hardly even see the excess. And so I got David's attention. He was talking to a lot of people, and I said to him, David, why'd you wreck the logo? Or why'd you wreck the can? And he paused, and he said to the guy next to him, who was also working the room a little bit, he said, wait right here. And he waved to me. He said, let's walk. And we walked down the hall, and he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, your can, it looks terrible. You wrecked it. He said, well, we just hired a new designer, and he's a packaged goods designer. And he said, we don't want the cans to compete with each other on the shelf. We want it to have a consistent look that like dominates the shelf. I said, well, first of all, David, you're selling at multi-level. You're not on the shelf. He gave me this look like deer in the headlights. And secondly, I said, you want this can to stand out in somebody's hands. It was exactly the same idea as the Instagram selfie idea. And the next time I saw him, I said hello, and we've been kind of acquaintances, kind of friends over the years since. And he said, I fired the designer. You were exactly right. And you can see it's great, bold. It's perfectly Instagrammable. I mean, it's just great. He said, because you got one can in somebody's hand, and it's got to stand out. And it went on to become the number 2 selling energy drink in America after Red Bull, maybe the world. It may still be number 2 in the world. It's really an amazing brand, but thank you very much. I always thought they should hire me for something. Anyway, and that brings us to Mark Ritson, and really good article, and it's on the same vein. Okay, should marketers fix a logo or be more playful? And it takes me back to the years when I had a design team working for me, and I asked them, and I just mentioned it the other day. I asked them, how much time do you spend per page? And we were handling logos like I fired one of them for trying to take Richard Petty's sunglasses off in a photo shoot, which not only showed that he knew nothing about stock car racing and angered Richard Petty, but he was not a very good logo concept guy. But we were handling logos for 3M and Caterpillar and and Pontiac and iconic brands around America, and it was not just a couple; it was dozens and dozens of them. And we would produce a catalog in their image for their employees and their dealers. And so it was really important to keep an eye on things. And so I got really, really mean with my designers and said, we're going to know how much time you spend on per page. We're going to have books of conventions, and you're going to know the logos for every convention. It was really interesting because AT&T, we didn't have AT&T as a client, but they sent us a pitch book. And I said, well, in order to pitch this, can I get your logo convention book? Because they had that. And what I realized was at the time they had the globe, and it was made up of lines with slightly wider or thinner lines depending on the version. There were actually 6 versions. There were increasing resolution. If the logo was going to be big, they made it high resolution. If it was going to be real little, they made it low resolution. Very smart. And they also had versions. They had a black version and a white version for if it was on dark backgrounds or if it was on light backgrounds. Very, very perceptive. And I went around the trade show where the vendors, display as a big, big trade show. And I noticed that half the logos for AT&T were wrong. Half. Because they didn't understand that you used a different logo on a white background than on a dark. So if you had 2 coffee mugs, you'd have a different logo if one was white and one was black. You'd have another set of logos if you were doing something detailed that was large, maybe a sign or something. Anyway, so we declined to bid, I think, and but we went to our merge house and we said, hey, if we rent a lot of lists, millions of names, of corporate names. If you see AT&T in one of them, put them aside. We'll send them a separate inkjet message. And so and it wasn't, lots, maybe a couple of thousand every time. But here's how personalization can make you a ton of money. And it fits with the logo story. And so we had an inkjet message go on there that basically says, we can follow the rules. Because it turned out that AT&T employees were ordering the stuff. That's how all these logos got wrong. The employees didn't know there were 6 different versions. And the vendor didn't know. And the vendor got artwork, and it looked like a logo, and he slapped it on, and it was completely wrong. And that made it look like the earth had a dent in it. So anyway, we basically put a message on there that said, we know the rules for AT&T. We can help you keep out of trouble. And it outperformed our hotline. It was the best thing we'd ever done. And then we got a letter from AT&T saying that we weren't allowed to take orders from employees, that employees were supposed to order from this company that they'd given the business to. But the problem is they didn't want to order from that company because you could only get like AT&T hat. And they wanted AT&T long lines or AT&T directory services or whatever it was, So we did bang up business for about 2 years on that little personalization because we knew how to work the logo. And finally we got a really serious letter that said, we're going to sue your pants off. And our attorney, which was Foley and Lardner, biggest basically law firm in Milwaukee, said they have no grounds to sue you if you get duly authorized and paid for orders from AT&T people, but that doesn't mean they can't make your life miserable. How much you making on this? And it wasn't. I mean, it was really good, but it wasn't enough to fend off AT&T. So anyway, let's talk logos for a bit. Okay, so the NBA logo, and I'll just bonk you over here to the NBA logo because I got this set up. The NBA logo right now is Jerry West, and the guy looked at millions of photos. But it's kind of, if you ask me, it's kind of feminine, the way it's curved and emphasizes his hips. I've always thought that. It's kind of funny, But it's been their logo for like 50 years. And there's a petition going around that has Kobe Bryant as the logo. I think that's Kobe Bryant. I can't really say, but it looks a lot like Ritzen's. Where's Ritzen's over here? Yeah, it looks like a flip of Ritzen's. Okay, but that's the funny thing about this. And you could flip this and keep it silhouette so that it would be very similar to this, but have some more fun and create a collectible if it was temporary. And that's kind of Ritzen's point. Hey, for one thing, it's a white guy. And 75% of your players are black. And I don't like the change. I don't like the idea of changing the typeface, but I think you could manage that too with just a little bit of work. You could, and if you flip this silhouette the other way, you'd get the same coloring and the same basic idea. It's very good, but much more masculine, much more energy. So I think it's a great idea. In fact, what I would suggest to go beyond Mark is something like I like the idea of keeping the silhouette. I have to say, I don't know which image you're going to use of Kobe, but if you look at this one, if we zoomed in on it, it's really he looks like he's eager and going down the court, but I think it's a little distracting, and you shouldn't really be emphasizing the Lakers over other teams. So there's a couple of good reasons not to use an image like that. I like that it bleeds outside of the logo. I really do. And for that reason, the silhouette does work better. I mean, the image does work better because it makes more sense. If you make it white, it's going to interact with these lines, and it's going to be a little less clear. All those things aside, as you can tell, this isn't the first time I've thought about logos, okay? But I think absolutely you should do it. And, I'd be okay with the NBA taking the All-Star every year and doing the logo with them for a year. I'd be okay with taking Hall of Famers and giving them versions of the logos or something like that. There's so many ways that you can energize this logo that really is out of date. It's just when you look at the two side by side, if I flipped it, which I could have, you would see the energy is with the newer logo. So what Mark's point is, and that's the important part, is that most here's the good one here. Policing the brochures and websites of the organization to ensure they deliver a consistent look and feel is what most low-level brand managers spend most and sometimes all of their working time on, right? And it's just, and partly because you're getting counterfeiters and stuff that don't know the rules either and bringing counterfeit merchandise in. So it's not a trivial thing. But like the story with the designers, you have to have rules. But the point, as I said the other day, one of the designers then came and said he had a golf bag, and we were selling some golf clubs. I don't remember the client, but it was a high-end client, and he said, "Could I let that bleed toward the page, bleed toward the page edge, or maybe even put it over the side of it and bleed that page?" I said, "Well, it's going to be more expensive, but absolutely, it looks great." And he said, "I thought we couldn't violate the rules." I said, "No, we have rules. We follow rules so we can violate the rules. That's the fun of great design." Thanks, Mark. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will think you're